Good morning, good afternoon, and probably good evening to all of you, because I know that you are joining us from many parts of the world. Welcome to this presentation of the Modern China Biographical Database, which I will call MCBD in the rest of my presentation to make it shorter. Why did we decide to develop this biographical database? Well, first, this is part of the ERC project that I'm conducting on the transformation of elites in modern China. And so this database is a product of a collective work by the ENP-China research team. The second reason is more important. The modern period is a sort of forgotten period. We have databases for the imperial period, especially CBDB at Harvard University. And we also have databases for the PRC. But for the modern period, and especially the Republican era, well, there's nothing that's really amount to any kind of database. The third reason is very fundamental to us. It's to serve the international community of China scholars with a genuinely international, multilingual, and freely accessible database. But our purpose is not just to develop a biographical database. Our ambition is one that we want to establish an instrument that is really tailored to the academic ecosystem that has been developing in the last 2 decades, and more specifically in the last decade, by which I mean the great digital transformation. My presentation will include 2 parts. I will use a few slides to present the background, how we conceive the database, and I will give also examples of the issues and challenges of processing the historical data and turning it into data. And my second part will be devoted to a presentation of the actual database. So I will take you into the system. So first, I will share my screen with this PowerPoint presentation. And what I want to introduce first is the public interface of MCBD. As I say, we focus on modern China. Modern China means the period between 1830 and 1949. It's a short but eventful period. It's also a time of drastic transformation. 1830, it's imperial China before the great challenges, by which I mean internal disorders, external threats, and then wars and rebellions that actually shook the empire and led to its collapse. And 1949 is the end of the Republican regime of the mainland and the establishment of the PRC. So within this period, we examine actors, events. And for this, as historians, we need to rely on accurate and rich information. In the past, for my generation, we used to rely on instruments such as dictionaries, biographical dictionaries, or series like Mingguo Zhuanji, things like that, in print format. But nowadays, we can use other kinds of resources. And this is the move from print to digital. This great migration has started some time ago, first with our usual resources, academic papers, academic books. But now we also have primary materials like newspapers, periodicals. We also have a wide range of source materials being digitized. Initially, these were all images but in the recent decade, a lot of this has become full text. And we need to adapt our approach, our instruments, our methods to these vast corpora. Whatever the topics, whatever the approach, we cannot avoid to take into account this transformation. We'll be using these resources to a certain degree. Not all of us will be doing prosopographic studies or studies focused based on biographies, but still the availability of these vast corpora of materials raises a challenge to historians. With MCBD, what we ambition to do is actually to have a platform where you can find people, you can find actors, so that when you use these Chinese language, Western language, historical sources, you will be able to identify these people. Because as you will see in my presentation, it's nothing obvious to actually identify historical actors in historical sources beyond the main figures. And even for them, sometimes there are issues. So what I mean to say that this transformation is for us historians a watershed. And historical research has become an entirely different ball game with these digital resources. Now, we're not the first to establish databases. There are precedents. The first one for the modern period was actually the China Biographical Database established by Marilyn Levine in the early 2000s. It has become obsolete. It's no longer online, but the data is there. And Marilyn Levine has kindly accepted to contribute and collaborate to our project. Now, there are major databases like CBDB, China Biographical Database at Harvard, that covers almost the entire imperial period. We have newcomers like the Singapore Biographical Database, which proposes a graph approach to biographies. We have also this database of Chinese engineers that the University of Leipzig is developing with Professor Kasker. The University of Boston is, for its part, developing the China Historical Christian Database. It's also a very brand new resource. And we should include into this array of databases produced outside of China, mostly, the Lee Campbell Group and the various data sets that have been producing over the years, and that also present a dimension of biographical data. So what you see here is the main page for the public interface of the database. If you go there, then you will have this very simple, very neat, but very basic search interface. You can type any name in Pinyin or in English or in Chinese, and you will get the result for the person that you are looking for. This was the public interface that we opened some time ago, but we were aware that for scholars, you need to have more advanced features to do queries. Unfortunately, so far, the system we use does not provide the possibility to have a more elaborate public interface. And so we decided to open up the database, and now you can sign up to become a member. There are no restrictions, no conditions. If you click on this sign up for a member account for full access, you will arrive on this page on our website, and there you can type in your name, email address, affiliation, position, and send us a message if you want to, and then we'll create an account for you. I will explain that in the rest of my presentation. Let me first explain how we design the database. This is very important because when one wants to establish such an instrument, it's very important to really know the field. we proceeded in 2 steps. The first one was to establish a prototype. So basically, we used a spreadsheet and we defined what we wanted to include, what elements, what data, and of course, the connections we wanted to establish between these various elements. So we thought for a long time about this prototyping, and then we moved to design. And before we moved to design, in fact, we were aware that there were technological choices to be made. And there we followed 2 basic principles. The first one was very simply, do not reinvent the wheel. We were aware of the project that existed, that there were very good people, very good scholars out there, not necessarily on China, but people with expertise and experience with databases, especially biographical databases. And so we gathered a panel of experts for 2 days, and for 2 days we discussed the pros and cons and issues and challenges and methods of establishing a biographical database. At the end of this process, we had deeper conversations with these experts, and in the end, we decided to go for heurists to develop our own database. For what reason? Well, first, from the beginning, this is something that was designed by humanists for humanists. It's not a kind of a commercial kind of data.